Greetings, Flosstube. It is Monday, December 17th, 2018. It is 3:18 p.m. And I just thought, since it had been a while since my last video, I would come in and give you a little bit of an update about the reason why I've been away for so long, and just, fill you in on a few things. I wanted to show the rest of the fabric that I've dyed, and I wanted to show you a little bit of progress I've made. I've been away for a while because around Thanksgiving, everything went to utter crap. My husband's boss and dear friend was fired. And then I was fired the day that Coach Whipple had his last day at UMass. So it's been a real, pardon my French, it's been a real shit month for the two of us. Lots of adjustments to make. For a while there, I didn't even feel like cross-stitching. I'm finally getting back to it. I was finally able to start working on my Heart is Full of Flowers again last week. I finally got out of the funk I was in enough to feel like I wanted to do that, like that would cheer me up and bring me some happiness, which it did. That one is a particularly special piece to me, so I don't want to stitch it and have any negativity going on with it, because it's an anniversary present for me and my husband next year for our 20th. So I just had to put it away for a while. That did bring me to a new start, which I'll share with you. Like I needed that, like I needed a new start. But anyways, so I have a couple of things to show you stitchy-wise. I have the last of my Jody Redesigns Thread of the Month Club. I guess one thing, and pardon the hoodie, I'm having a bad hair day, and no amount of combing I was doing before I came here was actually going to work. So I just figure, I got a perm last week, which is good, but I have this cowlick on the top of my head back here that it doesn't matter if my hair has just been cut and is short, or if I'm in dire need of a haircut and it's too long, it never lays flat. It always looks like I haven't combed my hair, which is the one thing I hate about my hair. I don't mind, like the color of my hair is fine, the length is fine. I like getting the perms because it makes it easier to take care of. But I've got this stupid cowlick, and I've got a double crown too, so my hair is just a disaster most days. So that's why I've got the hoodie. But anyway, back to what I was saying, realizing that, and now I do get severance pay through the first week of March, which is helpful because we can stock as much of that away as we can for when expenses get tight after that. And hopefully, I have put in with 3 temp agencies. Now I know this time of year, right at the holidays, if people are looking to hire, they're not moving on things really quickly. And who would? I mean, you've got all your crazy personal hustle and bustle for the end of the year and for Christmas and Hanukkah or whatever holiday you might celebrate, and and then you've got all the holiday stuff going on at the office. So yeah, I mean, I don't figure I'll really set anything into motion until the first of the year. Because I did have one interview last week out in Westfield, which was actually probably a little bit of a disappointment, because it would be for a legal secretary, where I would be reporting to a paralegal who would report to the town attorneys. Now, I'm not entirely sure that would be a bad thing, but it just doesn't sound like, considering I was a paralegal for 9 years with my previous company. I'm not sure that I want to take a step down to just being a legal secretary. Now it would depend. If the paralegal just did mostly the research and the drafting of like the reports and opinions and things like that, and I did all the work that I had been doing, then it might be something to consider, but I'm not entirely sure. But even they told me, we'll be calling for second interviews, but probably not starting until the second week of January. So, right now I'm in a bit of limbo, but I feel like I have hope that things will pick up in the new year. The job market is a lot better than the last time I was out of work, which was late 2008, which of course, as everyone remembers, was when the recession hit the fan. So I just think things will work out better for me in the long run than they did last time. But it still is a come down. You spend 9 years of your life and then you get treated like dirt for no reason except for the fact that your company is too cowardly to just lay everybody off and close the office, which is what I think eventually will happen to our office anyway, given things that one of my friends and I have talked about since I was let go. She's still there, she's in the Oregon office, but, we've talked about it. And the sad thing, or maybe not, or maybe it is if I think about this and the fact that I had my last job for 9 years, I really don't miss it. I don't miss the bureaucratic crap. I don't miss the low morale. I don't miss hearing how we were the cheap alternative. I don't miss all the rumors and innuendos that were going around when the first round of layoffs happened. I really was never happy in the job I had, and I probably should have tried to leave before they let me go. But at the time that I realized I was unhappy in my job about 5 or 6 years ago, the economy hadn't recovered enough for me to feel comfortable about trying to leave. I believe the last time I had an interview was the day of the marathon bombing, I'm pretty sure, which was 2012? Yeah, because it's been 6 years now. Yeah, this year was the 6th year. So I had gotten a call back for a second interview the day of the marathon bombing, and it turned out that the job was not quite what I was looking for. So I felt more comfortable, at least then, of saying, well, I'm not in a rush to get out. I don't have to get out right now. And that was right before I was promoted to a paralegal position. So when I was promoted, I didn't feel like I should leave because they had invested the time to train me to do the paralegal work. So, and then after that, I started doing the paralegal work. There were a couple of times I considered leaving. So, it's not like my job was the best. It's just the way it all went down. I don't entirely miss my job. I just wish I could have gone out under my own steam. So, I'm not really sure. But I'll just keep praying and keep trying my best to move forward. With that being said, I'm glad we're going to be home next week for the holidays. Take my mind off all this crap. Get away from these 4 walls for a little while. It was as bad as what happened to me was, it was even 10 million times worse what happened to Coach Whipple. He got canned basically because the AD had it in for him from the time he took the job. And by he taking the job, I mean the athletic director, because he came in April of 2015, and Coach Whipple had already been here for a little over a year, so he couldn't fire him to bring in someone right away, because, they would have had to have paid out his contract and whatnot. But now with this new coach, who's never been a head coach before, which puts up red flags in my mind immediately, but he's only 34, so maybe that's not as bad as it sounds. I just don't trust all the slavish, drooling devotion that the fans are having to this guy already, considering he's never coached a down of football as a 1A head coach ever. And his last job this year in 2018 was as the offensive coordinator for the Florida State Seminoles, who sucked eggs this year, by the way. And they had their worst season in about 15 years or so, and they aren't going to a bowl game for about the same, for the first time in about the same amount of time. And I don't think a lot of Seminoles fans were sorry to see him go. I haven't even actually met him yet, and I'm going to try my best to give him benefit of the doubt, but I'm disgusted as hell with our athletic director, and I just, Bill can retire with full pension and benefits in 2 years, and he'll only be 47, but he could reinvent himself and start, a second career. Kind of like the way my cousin Harrison did. He retired from the military at the age of, I think it was 49 or 50, and now he's teaching junior ROTC at a high school in North Carolina, and he's semi-retired. Yeah, if it gets to where it's just unbearable and my husband doesn't want to do it anymore, I would hate to see it come to that for him, because he's devoted the past 27 years of his life to college football, and 27 because I go back to his freshman year in college when he started doing paid videography as a career, and then he's been doing that ever since. So for 27 years, it's been his whole life and something that he's been very passionately dedicated to. But I keep thinking about this coach that we had who, this past fall, over the summer, he had emergency heart surgery. Had to miss Coach Gorham's funeral, and they were tight. They were like this because they played together at New Hampshire. So that killed him. He couldn't take that, being told that he had to be in the hospital and couldn't say goodbye to his best friend. And then, he came back in late July when camp started. And then over our open week in October, he went for a checkup and was basically told, look, Dave, if you don't slow down now, you could be dead in 5 years. And he's only 55. He's a young guy, and he looks, for all intents and purposes, like he could suit up and play football still today. I mean, he's very physically fit still, and you look at him, you wouldn't know he had a bad heart. Or I think about Urban Meyer, jackass that he is, and I'm sorry, I've never had any respect for Urban Meyer going back years, but that's another story. He's been having serious migraines and crippling migraines due to the pressure and stress he's been under. He could drop of a stroke. So this year, this Ohio State's bowl game is the last time he's going to coach. He's finally going to retire. I don't want to see that kind of thing happen to my husband. Right now he's in good health. His health is fine. His heart's good, his blood pressure's good, his blood sugar's good weight, good, whatever. And he's fine now. But I don't want to see this job ruin his health. Because it's like I tell him, and I'm only halfway joking, I plan to live to be 100, so you got to make it to 101. Because I'm not living to 100 without you. So, I just don't want this job to get to be where it adversely affects him and his health. I don't want that to be a thing. Because that would be worse to me than him deciding to reinvent himself and do something else with his life. He could do plenty of other things videography-wise. So who knows? Who knows what the next 2 years bring? It's very, very strange right now because there is no coach even approaching our ages on the staff. That's another thing that pisses me off about our athletic director is that he's very ageist. He's only hired one coach older than me and Bill since he got here. Everybody else is at least 10 years younger. The new head coach is 34. He's hired a running backs coach who is 24, who technically is old enough to be my son. I'm 44. I could be that kid's mom. So it's a very, very strange dynamic knowing that we're the oldest. The trainer is either our age or a scotch older. But between the three of us, we're the oldest ones affiliated with the football program now. And like I said, 45 and 44 is not old. And I'm assuming if Jen's any older than us, she might be 47. But, she's not 50 yet. So we're like the three oldest involved with football now, and it just feels so weird. Because I view age as a function of your attitude as much as anything else. I've known some people who are young who act old. I've known some older people physically who act like they're half their age. And I've never personally felt old myself, but it just seems weird that now I'm old enough to be Bill's boss's relatives. The running backs coach wouldn't be Bill's boss, but Bill's boss is only 10 years younger than me. 10 years younger. Coach Whipple was 16 years older, so it's just a strange thing to get your head around. I have noticed a lot of a generation gap. These kids, the oldest coach on the staff right now is 38, so that's still 7 years younger than Bill, to be the closest in age to him. I've noticed that these guys are very much instant gratification types. because the younger you are, the more you grew up with technology, and you can't sit still for more than 5 minutes without having your face glued to a screen. And I'm not trying to insult anybody out there who watches me who's younger, because I think people live across all ages and gender and, racial, whatever brackets out there that you can define someone by. There's people in all groups who have quite a bit to contribute. But I just hate that mentality that, it's like, don't trust anyone over 35. Because anyone over 35 is a washed-up has-been. Well, no, we're not. And we have equally important and equally worthwhile contributions to make. And I remember in the 60s, that was the big thing among the hippie counterculture, was never trust anyone over 40. Well, now I'd say it's don't trust anyone over 35. And, I talked to my husband about this because he's part Native American. He's an eighth Native American. And I said to him, if you think about the history of your people, they revered the elders. The elders were the most respected in the tribe because they were the ones who knew the stories. They were the ones who had the knowledge. They were the ones who had lived, and the younger generation would go to them for advice. And, what happened in our society where we don't value elders? What happens in society where you would take someone like Coach Whipple, who's 62 years old, has an amazing wealth of experience across all levels of football, 1AA college, 1A college. He worked in the pros, he has a freaking Super Bowl ring, and he coached Ben Roethlisberger. The man did not suck. No matter what these young people on Twitter who think they, run things, stand to say. But anyway, enough of that. I just realized I'm 16 minutes in, and I haven't actually talked cross-stitch. So I apologize. I just needed to vent. And I kind of felt the need to explain why I haven't been around for a while. So let's start by showing you all the fabrics that I have dyed since the last video. And if you'll remember, in that last video, it was one of my short work days, and I got home and we didn't have any water, and I didn't think I was going to get to dye fabrics, but it came back and I did. Now these are in no particular order. I also dyed a few fabrics on Thanksgiving, and I just did a couple about a week ago, used the last of my fabric stash and my soda ash and whatnot. This is a piece of 18 count Aida. Let me see if I can, it's really very pale. It's pale orange with a little bit of pewter, I think. But I really am not sure. Let me see if I can turn out one of my lights here and see if that can make it a little less glare. Yeah, that might be better. I haven't quite figured out compensation between too little and too much light yet. Yeah, that's better. Let me see if I can get this to focus. But it's kind of pretty. I mean, it's not quite as crazy as some of the oranges that I've dyed before. So, yes, I still have a landline. But, like I just told you, I'm an old fart, right? That is not going to be anybody I want to talk to. Trust me. Let me just turn this light up one more scotch and see if that's going to make a difference. Yeah, that's good. Yes, and I still have a voicemail. I guarantee you it's not going to be anybody I want to talk to. I've gotten to where I don't answer the phone. Because my husband would not be calling this time of day because he's up to his eyeballs in work, especially now with the new staff. And, if it's somebody important, they'll leave a message. If it was like somebody from church or something, they'd leave a message. But anyway, there's this piece. It's kind of a pastel-y orange, which is nice because most of the orange fabric I've done is just like wing in your face, and this one might be actually a scotch more usable than some of them. Then this one was Pomegranate and Pewter. I really like how the pattern on that one turned out. It's not like you can plan for these patterns, because it's ice dyeing. It's all random. But I really like some of them. There's one in here that you'll know it when you see it. But I was just, when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, it's gorgeous. I like the randomness of the ice dyeing. I was talking to someone and they were like, oh, it's like tie-dye. And I'm like, yeah, but tie-dye is more structured. Now this one is fantastic. I would use this for probably something floral, like a floral sampler or something. This was primarily wasabi, elven lily, and a little bit of pale orange, and this is a 32 count even weave. So, whoops. So there it is. Gorgeous. I love the wasabi dye. I think when I get a job and I have some funds available, I'm going to buy another thing of wasabi because it is such a pretty, I mean, it's a light green. And it's not like using the seafoam that overpowers everything. It's actually quite a light green, and depending on how much you use, you can get a nice variation in color. So, yeah, I'll probably use that one again. Now here's another wasabi piece that was wasabi and Wedgwood blue. And you can see how the blue kind of bled out into a little bit of purple, which I find to be nice. And that's a whole other shade of the green, but it's just as nice as the other one. So yeah, wasabi is one of my favorite Procyon dye colors right now. And I mean, granted, it's a spring color, but Dharma Trading Company, they sell to a lot of professional dyers. So of course, because the seasons in textiles go a season earlier, they've already got the spring colors out. But I love it. Now this one, I really didn't like. I kept a piece of it, and I actually cut a piece of it out of a larger piece that I dyed. I really don't think I'll stitch anything on this because it kind of looks like a dirty baby diaper. But this one I was trying to do wasabi and melted peat together to give like a lemon lime kind of color, but it really didn't. It didn't really take. It's just kind of a muddy, kind of mottled. This is an 18 count Ada. The colors would have taken differently on linen, but this is like I think this is the only one I've stitched that I haven't really liked. So, you know, I think it's all just a matter of experimentation and seeing what you come up with. Because this one's kind of like aqua-ish, but kind of a brownish yellow. Not the most attractive, but hey, it's just playing around with it and having fun, right? Now this one I really like. This is another wasabi one with some elven lily and soft orange. I think this would be nice to stitch a little small Carolyn Manning, like maybe one of the Twinchies on or something. And I like how the purple kind of, I mean, not that you would use this part down here, of course, because this would be where your edging would be, where your, border would be, but I like how it kind of did like a chromatography thing and kind of went up the fabric and kind of broke out into the constituent colors there. Now I have no idea what I would use this one for. This was a 32 count piece of linen that I pilfered from Lizzie Cake Kit. And this was the chamois and the Wedgwood blue. I mean, chamois and the ice blue. And I really like the patterning on this one. I just have no clue what on earth I would stitch on it. But I think it's pretty. I like it. It's just going to take some planning to figure it out. And I kind of like through this side where there's the stripes from where it froze to the cookie rack. I think that one's cool. Now this one I was really impressed with, and I wish I had dyed a bigger piece of fabric. This was seafoam, chamois, and a little teeny bit of pale orange. But I tried to compensate and not use too much seafoam, and I think I got the amounts right. Because seafoam can overpower a piece. It just can. It's so strong. It's like a gorgeous teal, but I think I got the proportions right so that it wasn't just like a muddy mess. Because that's the problem with some color combinations is, of course, they'll turn brown, and you just kind of have to, mess with the amounts you use to try to get it so that it's not just a muddy brown mess. This one was elven lily and wasabi. And I think there was a little bit over here of Plum Blossom. And I'm not sure where the scotch of ice blue came from, but it's in there too. It's just a random mishmash, but I like that one. Now this one I really liked. This is a piece of 32 count even weave, just a scrap I had that I found in my fabric stash. And this was Plum Blossom, Soft Orange, and Wasabi. I really like that one. And I really like how soft this fabric became when I washed it with the textile detergent before and after I dyed it. I think that one turned out real pretty. It's a small, this would have to be one for a Carolyn Manning Twinchie because it's a small piece of fabric, but that's what I'll use it for. Now this one reminds me of Funfetti frosting. And this was an 18 count piece of tan Aida. And I used Wisteria, which is a really nice dark purple, Seafoam, and I believe Plum Blossom in there. And I don't know how on earth I ended up with those little dots on the bottom, but that's kind of cool. Because of course all this is where there was no ice, so that didn't dye. So it turned out nice. But yeah, I call this one Funfetti because it just reminds me of when you make those cupcakes and you put the sprinkles in them or in the frosting, you know. Not that I bake from a box, but there's nothing wrong with baking from a box if you do. I just don't, but doesn't mean it's right or wrong to bake from a box. Now this one is chamois, hummus, and soft orange. Ooh, got strings all over it. It's alright. I would use it for something, I just don't know what. Because some of these come out so dark. But it doesn't mean they're unusable. I've actually got a piece I've started, which I'll show you here in a minute, on one of my hand-dyed pieces that's actually really looking very pretty. Now this one was Soft Orange and Seafoam and Plum Blossom. So I like that one. To me, this one makes me think of Mars. Because I think you think of Mars as being reddish orange. And that's really kind of the way the Plum Blossom kind of toned down the orange a little bit and made it redder. So I think I'd call this one Martian Surface. That's a terrible name for a fabric, but oh well. I'm terrible with names. You should hear names that I give to suggest to people when they've got a new pet. No, I'm not good at naming things, which is crazy because I'm a writer, but whatever. This one was brown, and this one was hummus, pewter, and Wedgwood blue. I really like this part up top where you can see the blue, where the blue broke through where there was no ice. I kind of like how it wicked out that way. So now this one, I wasn't sold on at first, but the more I look at it, the more I like it. At first, this reminded me of the scene in Ron Burgundy when he's wearing the Sex Panther and they say it smells like a dirty diaper full of curry or whatever. It just reminded me of the color of what that smell would look like. I wasn't really sold at first because I don't know how I got that splotchy thing. I don't know how I got the splotch. It looks like maybe that was just the direction that the ice melted in. But I mean, it's a cool effect. I doubt I could never replicate it, of course, because you can't replicate it with, but I don't know. I kind of like it more. I kind of like the side that isn't as color intensive. This part here I kind of like better than this part. But, I mean, it's alright. This was a 32 count piece of linen. And I haven't had to buy any of these fabrics. That's how much stash I had. So this one was kind of fun. This one sort of turned out more. This was a 32 count piece of even weave, and the Plum Blossom kind of concentrated on the edges of the fabric. But this was Wedgwood blue and wisteria as well. So I kind of like that one. I kind of wish this color had been more up in here, but then again, I'm not a pink person, so maybe it was cool that the primary color in that one was purple. Now this one I really love. This was the first one that I dyed with wasabi and I used a little bit of seafoam, but it's mostly wasabi and soft orange, and I really like how that turned out. And maybe it's just because I've been watching a lot of shows about outer space on Science Channel, but some of these remind me of like nebulas and supernovas and things. Now this is the one that when I saw it, I just squealed. I was so happy. I think this looks better viewed this way instead of that way, landscape, portrait as opposed to landscape. This one was pewter, wisteria, soft orange, and ice blue. Is that not the coolest thing? I was so excited when I saw this one after I washed it and dried it. It's a 32 count piece of linen. Again, I wouldn't know what to stitch on it right now, but isn't that gorgeous? Oh, it's so pretty. I love it. It actually almost reminds me, well, it's too purple, but if it were more blue, it would remind me of UVA colors, but yeah. I mean, it's pretty in the landscape, but I like it better in the portrait view. That one is one of my favorites. Here's another pomegranate one. Nothing too fancy, just a little pomegranate and a little hummus. Didn't feel like doing anything major, but... Now this one turned out really nice too. This one was wasabi with a little bit of pomegranate in it. And I think that one turned out... It's pretty subtle. It's a 32 count piece of like tan linen. So there's not a whole lot of fancy schmancy to it, but I like that not all of my fabrics are like, you know, blinding amounts of color. This one I doubt I'll ever use. This one I probably will not keep. It was just soft orange with a little bit of hummus in it, I think. Nothing outstanding. I don't think I'll ever use that one. This one was Plum Blossom and Elven Lily and Elven Lily and hummus, I think, with a little bit of Wedgwood blue. And it's on a 14 or an 18 count piece of Ada, so it took the color differently, but I like it. I like that it's subtle. It's much more subtle than some of the purples I've dyed. And it's even more subtle on one side than the other, so that's cool. Now this one, I absolutely love. This is a 32 count piece of even weave, and this was pewter and chamois and a little bit of seafoam. It's very dark. It's very dramatic. And I've never even stitched on black Ada, so I don't know how I'm going to stitch on some of these, but it's more just fun to see how things turn out. Now, this is the pièce de résistance that I didn't have any preconceived notion of how it was going to turn out. And when I saw it for the first time, I was like, oh my god, that's awesome. This would be awesome for a Halloween piece. This was a piece of beige or off-white 14 count opalescent Ada. And I used wasabi and orange and melted peep. Look at that. Is that not cool? I mean, of course, I don't stitch much Halloween stuff because Halloween's kind of nothing really special to me because I don't have kids. You know, I mean, I used to dress up to go to work, but that'd be about it. But is that not cool? And then I think having the opalescent, you know, having the sparkles in the fabric, I really like this side over here where there's the green and the brown concentrated. This would look cool to stitch like a haunted mansion or something on. So anyway, that's it for the fabrics. Like I said, I've now got 35 pieces of fabric. So, and as I mentioned before, you know, I was thinking before I lost my job about canceling my Fabric of the Month subscriptions and my Floss of the Month subscriptions and things like that because, you know, how much stuff can you ever actually really use? Why not just use what you've got before you worry about buying more? And I think that that is a mindset and a philosophy I'm trying to come into in my life in general anyway. You know, use what you've got. And I've definitely got more than enough stuff to stitch from stash next year no matter what I want to stitch, with the exception of maybe occasionally having to buy a DMC skein here or there. So yeah, I've really gotten into this. Be conservative with what you spend your money on. Not that I'm a spendthrift or a shopaholic or a shopping addict or anything. I just think we all fall into those where, oh, we see this pattern or we see this notebook and we got to have it, and then we never use it, and then we're like, well, why did we buy it? So yeah, but next year is definitely going to be a Stitch from Stash year. And I have a lot of little scraps and things that I can stitch with. So now I told you I have started a piece on one of my hand-dyed fabrics, and this is, I don't know if you remember in whichever dyeing video it was where I showed you the one that was the blue fabric, the Wedgwood blue that I over-dyed with orange and red. Well, sadly I am stitching a memorial tribute for a friend of mine who lost his wife in September. I am doing this was from the 2017 Stitchy box, designed by Fiberlicious. And I am stitching it with Gentle Arts whitewash on this piece of fabric I hand dyed. And I'm going to use the DMC books with the lettering that I bought to put her name on it. And here's what I've got so far. This is an 18 count piece of Ada, and like I said, the blue, like if you can see the blues up here in the corner here, that was the actual color of the fabric, and then I dyed it maroon and pale orange or soft orange. So that's what I've got done so far, and I really like using the Gentle Arts sampler threads, and this is actually stitching pretty quickly. I won't be able to get it to him for a while because until I get a job I won't be able to afford to get it framed. Now, that being said, my father is going to help me frame a piece for my niece and nephew when we get home next week. I ordered some frames at frameamerica.com so that I could get them in the size I needed because Michael's was woefully out of frames. And I'm going to, take a notebook, take copious amounts of notes, ask him to show me how he does it. I'll show you the pieces for my niece and nephew here in a second. So maybe I can start framing my own stuff, or at least trying. I want to do like a throwaway piece that isn't going to matter. I'll probably pull out one of my old, mini motif books or something and just stitch something small and see if I can frame it myself. My dad would be the one who would say, you should have been framing your own stuff years ago, because my father is an engineer. And I don't think he would ever let my mother, when she was cross-stitching, have paid top dollar to get something professionally framed when he could do it for her himself. That being said, I've just always been scared that I will screw something up royally. So I'm thinking maybe in 2019, I'll see about trying to frame something and see if I feel comfortable doing it myself. So the aforementioned pieces for my niece and nephew. This is one of the Lizzie Kates that I stitched for my niece. And this was a scrap of 32 count Jade from Picture This Plus that I had. Just a leftover scrap. And then I stitched this one for my nephew. And I used some beads from the Christmas Stitchy box from 2017. Or was it 2016 that I got it was 2016 that I did the Christmas box, and then in 2017 I did the Valentine one. And did I do the Halloween? Yes, I did the Halloween and the Valentine one last year. And then I did the 2016 Christmas Stitchy box. Now, the bead, it's probably the light's not going to pick it up here, but the star bead is a little crooked. But then again, don't we all have discombobulated Christmas trees? For lack of a better way to put it, don't we all have a Christmas tree that's a little crooked, or, the star doesn't stand up right? There we go, that's better. And so those buttons were from the 2016 Christmas Stitchy box. Because it was supposed to have buttons that the pattern came with, but I didn't have the buttons, so I just thought, well, I'll improvise. So my dad's going to help me frame these. Because there's nothing an engineer loves more than getting out the rulers and the levels and the measures and, doing all that stuff. So I know he's going to enjoy that, and I hope I can learn from him and get over my fear of doing my own framing, because something tells me, like, just for stuff I want to make for myself, or even stuff that I wanted to make for the church. I did three cross stitches for the church, and the Celebrate with the Rudolph and the Wise Men Still Seek Him sold, though For We Walk by Faith Not by Sight didn't. But you know, it's always a crapshoot. You never know. So I'm going to give that to a friend of mine at church. Give that to her for her children, for their room. And, you know, I mean, if I could do something like that and frame something like that myself and just order a simple frame online, you know, frame it myself, put it on a mounting board, frame it, you know, that kind of thing. In the long run, that might be beneficial. So hopefully my dad doesn't mind me picking his brain about that. I'm sure he won't. Now, like I said, I did get back to working on My Heart Is Full of Flowers last week. It was the first time in almost a month I had worked on it. But like I said, I didn't want to corrupt this piece with any negativity, and negativity was all I had there for a few weeks. Still got some of it, but not as crushingly bad as I did. So you can see I got this big motif started here. And this one is similar to that one. So I'm making headway. I really don't have much left to do on this one. I may have to wait a while and get it framed once I get a job and have the money to send a digital rental. So it may not be ready in time the way I envisioned it for our anniversary, but it's a love gift that whenever I do get it, you know, that kind of bummed me out. But then I was like, well, you know what? I've been stitching on this, and whenever I can get it framed the way I want it to be framed, it's going to be a beautiful heirloom treasure anyway. It's going to be one of the few pieces I've stitched that I've kept for myself, too, so there is that. And then when I was kind of in the doldrums, I just needed something different. I couldn't even work on finishing the Christmas piece, because I had Andrew's piece, and I was so close to finishing it, and I was like, I couldn't even look at that for a while. So I started the Flower a Day Sal by Carolyn Manning, and this is a piece of 32 count fiberlicious fabric that Danielle sent me at one point. And I have decided that I'm just going to make it a wild ass sampler, use my specialty threads. I have quite a variety of them. Most of them are Weeks Dye Works and Gast, and I also have quite a few Jody Redesigns threads and other random ones that I've collected over time. I haven't really done much with this, but I did get it started, and you can see that it is going to be, like I said, wild ass colors. I'm not going with any particular pattern, any particular, you know, I'm just going to, the only reason that one motif that is unfinished, well, the red one is down there is red, is because it looked like a poinsettia to me, so I'm going to stitch the inside with some Holly Green Weeks Dye Works. And that red was Valdani Silk and the Proud Turkey. Yeah, it was Proud Turkey colorway. So I thought that I would put a Christmas motif in there because I'm stitching in December. But as you can see, it's going to be wild. But that's what I'm going for. So I really didn't do anything stitchy-wise the past few weeks other than that. Like I said, I just got out My Heart Is Full of Flowers. Just finished the kids' stuff. The one I've been working on the most is the Memorial Tribute, just because it's a quick stitch. It's so funny, though, because I'm so used to using linen. This is like even a 32 count Jolene. I'm so used to using even weaving linen now and having to wear my readers that when I stitch on the 18 count, it's like, wait a minute, what is this? I can see without my glasses. So it's weird because it was a learning curve enough to go from Ada to linen the first time, but now that I stitch primarily on linen, it's like I have to kind of unlearn what I've learned, if that even makes any sense. So I've got my last 2 packs of Jody Redesigns threads. And yeah, this too was a thing. I mean, how many specialty, that's part of the reason I wanted to do the Flower a Day stitch along in wild colors, was because I've got all these gorgeous specialty threads and they're just sitting there in my stash. What the heck? use them. So this is Jody Redesigns. This is Moon and Stars. It's very, very pale yellow and gray. It probably won't even show up well in this lighting situation. It's very, very pale. Then this one is Black Widow. This one is gorgeous. This is like a purple and dark gray. I love purple and gray as a color combination. Honestly, I think that makes a cool school color. That or purple and green. This one is DJ Dylan. And this one is funky. It's pink and little orange and purple and yellow. Don't know who DJ Dylan is, but okay. This one is called Surf Salt. This one's a real pretty mix of all different shades of blue with a little yellow in it. And this one's called Jello Jukebox, and this is a combination of gray, orange, and blue. It's funny because it depends on my hobby as to whether or not I like blue. I love blue and thread, but I really am not the biggest fan of blue fountain pen ink unless it's like what I call blurple, that bluish purple. Like the purple that trends more towards blue than red. I just find that interesting. Ooh, this one is called Jungle Cat. This one is basically a very bright orange and a dark like slate gray. That one is cool. Ooh, this one makes me think of Bumblebee. Well, this one's called Honeybee, but it makes me think of the Transformer Bumblebee because it's black and gray and yellow. Sweet little Bumblebee. He would be my favorite Transformer. I think Optimus Prime was kind of a jerk at times. This one's called Viper. Green and gray. Ooh. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I think red and black or red and gray is such a classic color combination. This one is Flamenco. I think I may already have one of these. I can't remember. It's like pink and red and black and grayish black. Yes, believe it or not, all through all the stress I've been through, I still have fingernails. December 23rd, this coming Sunday, will be 4 months. Now, these two are broken. And that one I sheared off putting a glove on. That one was my longest one on this hand, and I sheared it off. I turned, you know how like you can turn your nail inside out? I was so mad at myself. Never mind the fact it hurt like a banshee, because I've never been able to do that with a fingernail. My fingernails have always hurt for other reasons. But I used a little money that I had before I got let go, and I went and got my nails done for the holidays. I like the acrylic manicures, the acrylic gel manicures, because they're so much more chip resistant. I feel like the day that I get nail polish put on, it's already chipped. But I feel like a good gel manicure can last a month. So I got this done last Friday, so I'll be good through the new year. And then hopefully I'll get a job and it won't matter, but I feel like trying to take care of my nails with manicures and whatnot also helps me not chew them. And this one is called Pink Zebra. This may not be my favorite one, but it's interesting, pink and gray. So, the last of my Jody Redesigns editions, but these will be put to use in my Flower a Day sampler. And I think that's just about it. I know I've talked your ear off. I apologize for all the talking in the beginning. I know more stitching and showing and sharing and less talking. I will put in the title to skip to the 17th minute if you want to avoid all the blah-de-blah before the stitching. I'm leaving to go home on the 22nd, this coming Saturday, and we'll be gone through the 30th, and then hopefully first of the year things can get back to normal. I did receive an email from our bell choir directors. The bell choir rehearsals were supposed to start on the 3rd, but her Epstein Barr flared back up again, and I'm not entirely surprised because she had a real massive case of bronchitis earlier in the fall, and she barely got over it before she got sick again, so I think her immune system is just weakened. and Epstein-Barr is adult mono, so, you know, I wasn't entirely surprised to hear that. So bells are on hold for a while, so hopefully when I get back I can just nose to the grindstone for looking for work and getting a job going. And of course that'll leave me some stitchy time, so hopefully in my next video I will have less chit-chat and more stitching to show you. You know, I've got a bunch of projects that are ongoing, so we'll see what kinds of things I can get done at the end of this year and into the new year. So I will leave it here at 50 minutes, and I just will say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever holiday you celebrate, I hope it's a good one. And until next time, I wish you happy stitching and a happy life. See you soon.